Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Omniverse of Nick, and part 21 to the Mcqueen Walking Dead story. I'm your host, Nick, and like always, before we get into today's episode, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick channel, and comment your favorite part or parts of ongoing or past stories, as well as future recommendations for what-ifs and general discussion you might get to see on the channel in the future. With all that out of the way, we're getting into the epic Rick versus Shane fight today, as well as a hint of what's going to happen after. Let's get into it. Rick confronts Shane at the border of Alexandria, army to army, in one last attempt. Before Rick is forced to fight, he wishes to try and appeal to his once former brother. He tries, he pleads, he begs, he even gets personal about what they had before, why Shane left. He tries everything. Shane, he gets it. He gets that he doesn't have Michonne. He gets that he left. He gets how he felt the group was weaker. He gets about the fact of threats being around, but he doesn't get that they used to be a family, brothers, in arms. Shane saved his life from dying, for Christ's sake. He can come back. But Shane, he's not moved. And he says to Rick, not a chance. This is where he belongs now. This is his choice, his road, his life. He has chosen for himself. The old Shane, it's not him anymore. As a matter of fact, after that day of him saving Rick, that was gone. This is who he chooses to be. And if that means killing everyone here, even his former brother, and getting rid of very big threats, he's going to do it. But before either side can get a chance to spill blood, both parties turn, and at the very edge of their peripheral vision to Alexandria's other side, they see a truck ram into Alexandria with another group surging in attack. People with W's on their heads. The Wolves' entrance. Finding just the right time to get in on taking this community. But Shane, he just tells his men to rain fire. And they do. Killing Owen and every single wolf almost in 10 seconds. That's how much not only Shane has control of this army, but how weak the wolves are in this sense. The most they did was take out the tower, which I'll get to that after this big thing we're getting here. Shane turns after having that problem dealt with, and it's like, where were we? As if nothing had happened. Rick, he cannot believe what he's seeing. Not only has he seen Shane control this army so effortlessly, but they just took out a threat like no problem. And Rick is done at this point. He yells to Shane with every fiber of his being and says, we could use that together. We can work together. Your army, these people, the leadership we once had. And he tells Shane that enough is enough. It's time for him to open his eyes and stop. And we get a season 2 final canonical line from Shane and scene saying that he's right. That is enough. Which we're getting a lot of those. He tells Rick that it is enough. Enough hanging around threats that could turn against him or anyone at any moment. Signals to Morgan and Mcqueen. And enough of pretending that we have a life that is no longer worth living. Enough wishing for sunshine and rainbows. and basically going off on Rick about this whole peaceful paradise, walking into the sunset together. We can expect Shane to say stuff like this. And he's about to say it ain't like it was before, but he then gets shot in the shoulder by Lori. And Shane looks directly at Lori. He cannot believe what he is seeing. She's supposed to be dead. He can't believe it. He didn't want to do it, but still. But this gives Rick the perfect opportunity. He yells to everyone. And Mcqueen, Daryl, Morgan, and every single other person arms themselves and rains fire and missiles and everything that you can expect. And every savior this time is taken down in a flash in an epic gunfight. Shane loses his life last at the hands of Daryl, Morgan, Rick, Mcqueen, and Lori. Even Carl taking an open advantage against this opportunity. Ezekiel, Jesus, and their people are the only pack of the saviors, quote-unquote, left. But once they see what they're dealing with and the side that they should be on, they surrender, and they see that Rick and them see that they're not bad. Jadis, she's another survivor. She crawls out of the wreckage of dead bodies and just decay and everything everywhere, and she seemingly surrenders herself, injured but seeming in help and not really looking as if she'd be a threat. So, bearing all of that in mind, having to deal with Shane's death and everything that has just happened, it seems like the battle has been won once and for all with this group of people. But Rick thought this very erroneously, because just then, the last survivor, Morales, picks up Negan and Shane's bat Lucille, and from behind Beth, whams her mercilessly. Daryl sees this, cries out in rage, and goes to shoot. Rick sees this and tells him not to, yelling at him, but Daryl, he's already shot him down in the blink of an eye, just as Jadis turns her signature traitor move and goes to shoot right at Rick, who very slowly starts to see Jadis pick up her gun and fire at him. But as all of this is happening, Lori sees Jadis do this right before Rick does and shoves him out of the way of the bullet, just in time for the bullet to go straight into her head. This time, Lori is dead. Ain't no coming back from that. So, yeah. And after that, Lightning McQueen enables his machine gun turret, and in the split of a few seconds, guns Jadis down to death, killing Jadis. And now, I know, a lot just happened, and it'll be a sad and very surprising moment, because keep in mind, all of those deaths, Morales, Beth, Jadis, Lori, all of that happened within the span of like 10-15 seconds. So think of how cool and just out there that would be. And it's big. Yeah, that's even why I posted the pictures. This is a big moment right here. Now, Rick and Carl have to come to terms with the fact that Lori is dead for real this time. And Daryl has to come to terms with losing Beth. Especially, besides the Amy story, this is her most brutal death yet by Lucille. Because I've never had her really a lineup victim. So this is a bit of a twist on that. Rick's in that state of mind because Lori's gone, and Daryl, Carl, Dale, and Herschel, and several others have to come up with a plan. Not only because of what's just happened, but because they know that Rick's going to be really broken about this. Losing an unborn kid and then his wife almost in the same amount of time, it's just too much. And McQueen, he would think on it too and talk, but he's mainly concerned about Rick and comforting him, because besides Morgan, he's been with him since the start. So Mcqueen's gonna feel really, really bad for Rick. But they don't have time for that, because Mcqueen, within a little bit of time of all this happening, sees something within the corner of his eye. A big, humongous horde coming right towards Alexandria. And he knows that no way. That group that attacked right before Shane and the Savior shut them down, they must have drew the horde here, or all that gunfire must have drew them here by force. They can't fight them when they're like this, can they? Well, they have to do something, and Daryl and Morgan know that and take up the surge to lead against this horde. But Rick shoves right past all of them, axe in one hand and the prosthetic in another, which would be awesome, and tells everyone in a fit of utter rage, like the Dale from my Dale story, to stay back or die. And just when this happens, the clock tower falls and the horde rushes in, with Rick going after all of them, with the axe and prosthetic by his side. But Mcqueen is not going to let the person who saved him, his freaking best friend, his guardian, do this alone. He goes right alongside Rick and fights. So does Daryl, Morgan, and soon everyone who can fights alongside. Just like the season 6 horde fight, everyone takes on this horde. And they take them down. Once Rick has finally exhausted every little bit of his rage, looks at everything that's happened, accepted everything that's happened, very reluctantly, and comes to terms with it all, his mind finally collects itself, and he talks to everyone in the community, including Jesus and Ezekiel's people, and tells them that this is their home now. Communities, they will all work together. They're going to build something, not just for his unborn kid and Lori, but to remember those that they've lost and how people can change like Shane and everything else did. They're going to make what they had at the farm better here. Mcqueen, Carl, and Daryl are all very proud of Rick for this. And so is Morgan, because like Mcqueen, he's been with him since the start. And he pretty much, even though he shot out his eye, saved him from literally dying and losing his mind completely. And then Rick goes over to Morgan and Mcqueen and says that they are anything but threats. Morgan, yes, he was at one point. And Mcqueen, he could be in many senses. But they are both his friends, and it's Rick's job to protect them both and bring Mcqueen home. And Mcqueen pulls off a signature ka-chow in response. Jesus presides over Hilltop as the new leader since Gregory was killed by Shane, and Ezekiel and his people are all still alive, so Ezekiel just goes back to the kingdom. And now Rick, Deanna, and everybody else in Alexandria puts a new path into making Alexandria not only better than in canon, but better than the farm, which they had kept up a much better degree than any version of it so far. After that, we get a similar trope. Relationships. Rick and Jesse, after a good long time of Rick recovering, form a relationship. After that, you would expect that I would put Carl and Enid together, which we're going to be talking about that for a second. Carl and Mika, like my Merle story, have gotten together, and they still are. And in my Madison story, Carl and Sophia got into a little bit of a relationship. And I've put Carl and Enid together multiple times, but this story, we're going to make Carl and Mika's relationship actually mean something, unlike the Merle story. So Enid is still going to be with Ron. Deanna and Reg are still together because Reg is still alive, and so is Deanna. Mcqueen, he keeps with the Grime family, just to himself as a personal car and just, as he has been. Glenn is around to see Herschel grow up, which I've done before. Tara and Denise form a relationship, and Megan, she forms not a relationship. No way. Not yet. But she does form a friendship with Sam. Because I feel it would be more appropriate to put them in a relationship as teenagers. As for Andrea, I'm going to do something very interesting. I'm going to put Andrea with Morgan. Now, there's a few reasons for this. Because I have barely ever, besides the Merle story and maybe a few others, put Andrea in a relationship with anybody. So call this an upgrade to her character, if you will. And that's the same for Morgan, except Morgan, I have done so much with him, especially in this story, which you guys have definitely probably recognized. But relationship-wise, I definitely feel like he deserves something. Now, we're going to touch upon something that's even more important. Dwight, Sherry, and Tina. Now, I'm going to explain something real quick. This is taking place, all of what's just happened has taken place before and during the beginning of season 6. So Dwight, Sherry, and Tina haven't met the Saviors, and nor will they ever meet them ever. So they're going to be trailing off basically on their own. Soon enough, though, they do come across Sadiq and save his life with Dwight's help. And all 4 of them, after a long journey and barely surviving, are rescued and meet the family who call themselves the Clarks and our Fear the Walking Dead group. Yes, I know what you guys are all going to be saying. This is the first time I have ever put Sadiq in Fear the Walking Dead, which, to be honest, I felt this is a great twist, and just the only place to put Sadiq, really, in the sense of what's just happened. So, yeah. Also, Tina's never been in Fear either, so call that another upgrade. 6 years later, Yumiko, Magna, and all their group is saved by Judith and the big, increasing Alexandria with Mcqueen in tow. And that's where we end this episode, with the entrance into the Whisperers and a few parts before the end of this story, finally. So, what do you guys think will happen next? How did you like this episode? And what's your favorite parts so far? With all that out of the way, guys, be sure, as always, to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick channel, and comment your favorite part or parts of ongoing or past stories, as well as future recommendations for what-ifs and general discussion you might get to see. With all that out of the way, stay tuned, because we're near the end.